Okay, so we've talked a lot, we've talked about like key transparency during this session. There's been like breakout, there's been like various talks, even this morning, like with Daniel, for instance. And today I'm going to talk about like, okay, so like we have these logs, which are logging like key transparency, like keys and like key changes, but who's actually like watching after them? And so today I hope to make a live demo from Transparency Dev Summit, so we can like actually check that some of these log and the claim that they're making are actually valid. It will run out of my machine on like the Google network. Hopefully everything runs fine, but we will discover that in a few minutes. Before I start, I just want to check how many people have scanned QR codes on like Signal, WhatsApp, or etc. for their PEs to check that it worked. Okay. Did you ever get a notification that like the other user phone, your contact, has been updated? Okay, so quite a lot of you. Did you keep on contacting these users? Okay, it was just like a like side thing, but like I think what it highlights is like it's like very difficult in a like real environment practice to make like user experience right, because in the end you want to communicate. I think through that, like key transparency is like a very big commitment to like make sure that like users, even in the future, will be able to check that, and other people will be able to come audit and validate these claims. On that, key transparency, we've discussed like a couple of constructions, I think, of key transparency, and there's been a lot of papers. There's more than like what's on the slide. But what it means is like the design space is like quite broad, and like with like the evolution of deployments and like various companies and needs, there's been like kind of like a divergence in terms of like what has been implemented. So it mostly started with Connex, and then there's been like iteration. So like when WhatsApp came in, they've seen like the Seamless paper, which was some improvement over Connex. They updated it with Parakeet to like work at their scale, and like more recently there's been Optic and Electra, which have not any known deployment to my understanding, but that's coming. However, like all these papers, we classify them as key transparency because they share mostly the same component. And so if we come to what was before key transparency, you had an application, you had like clients querying the application saying, hey, like I want the key for like this phone number, and you get the key. That's what's happening before key transparency. When you had key transparency, the application magically turned into a log, and so like you were querying the log, you could like have a proof from like the root of the Merkle tree to specific entities to like have some sort of proof that like the key that you're getting from the server is actually the one that you expect. There's still like some like split worldview problem. You still have like the log operation, and it's still like a commitment from the application owner that like they will try to make everything transparent so that you can verify it in the future. And so that's where what interests us today comes in, is like we want like an auditing. So I call that an auditor because like the auditor, there's been like witness mentioned before. In this case, the auditor is both witnessing that the log is doing some new operation. So for instance, like, I don't know, we have like every seconds we have a couple of keys which are updated. So we'll say every minute we will like batch this update, issue an epoch with like the number of updates we got. And so we need to make sure that like the new tree which has been constructed from this update is actually seen by everyone. So like that's what the witness would do. The witness would, I think Filippo explained it on like 2 days ago on Wednesday. The witness would like sign the hash of like the root hash of the tree, and say, okay, like it has been seen at some point, and so like later down the line you can come and like validate it. The auditor does a bit more than that. It actually checks that like all the epochs are consecutive. It can also check that the epochs are unique. And it can also check, if we like a bit more complex system, it can also check that like all the tree transitions are valid. And this is like various claims that like one auditor can do. And it really depends on like what deployments you want to do. In the case of WhatsApp, for instance, WhatsApp publishes each of like the tree transition on an S3 bucket. And what Cloudflare does when it validates that the tree transition is valid, it goes to S3, pull it, copies the content, just in case we need to prove down the line that we've performed the verification properly, signs it, and like provides it to WhatsApp. Okay, so we provide it to WhatsApp. I say it's like deployed. Can we actually use it? Time to check. So a quick way to check it, we've made like just a small dashboard where you can see like the various logs that we audit. At the moment, we audit WhatsApp. So WhatsApp seems to be online. which is good. But this is like in an effort to like somehow like attempt to make things more accessible. But if you want to dive a bit more into the details, we've also like open sourced the auditing implementation. So it's all on GitHub. It's called Plexi because it's flexible. We've made it work with like all the logs implementation as well. And Plexi offers a CLI, which we're going to use now. So if I check my CLI, so first of all, I want to check what are the logs that Cloudflare is auditing. So I have like a remote URL, which is the URL of the auditor, which provides me like an HTTP API, which I could type by hand, but it's much more convenient to do it with a CLI. And so you can see at the moment there are 3 logs that we audit. We audit like a test namespace for ourselves, we audit a test namespace for WhatsApp, and we audit WhatsApp. Great. Now we want to like validate that Cloudflare has actually like produced a signature for like the latest WhatsApp epoch, and has also validated the proof. And we want to check the proof locally and see if like actually Cloudflare did a good job. So we just do Plexi audit. What Plexi audit will do is it will request the signature, what the epoch from the API, check the signature. It will download the epoch from S3, validate the epoch locally, and compare it to ensure that like it's actually like the good job that like Cloudflare has done. You have a bit more information, so like you can specify the cipher suite depending on like the log type you're using. You can like see like the epoch highs, digest, and etc. And that's it. If you have more question, I'm happy to answer, and I will be back to the slideshow with like a lot more links. That's it.